Hey guys, so it is June now. Our lawns are starting to discolor a little bit. It's getting hot. We're above 90 degrees each day. The nighttime temperatures are in the 70s. We are starting to dry out in the soil profile, and you're starting to see it in the grass. This is something that happens every summer. It's just how our summers go. We have a dry spell, even though if we're getting plenty of rain in the spring, that heat will start to dry out in a matter of just 2 or 3 days. It starts to dry out that soil profile, and you may start seeing some brown spots. If you're with our water restrictions, you're down to once a week, and that is just not enough time to bridge the gap for all those days in between. So I'm going to go over a couple things, what you're seeing and how to help bridge that gap and have a better looking lawn. So the first and the main one is going to be our watering issue. So when you run your irrigation, you want to make sure you're watering deeply. We want to get down to the roots. We don't want to just do a light watering. And so if you're able to, which we can't around here, if you're able to water every day, that's actually one of the worst ways to irrigate. You want to make sure you do a nice soak where you're soaking down 3-4 inches into the soil profile, to where the roots can take it in. This doesn't mean you're putting down 3 or 4 inches of water. It's just you're getting the water that you are putting down to soak down and not run off anywhere. If you have runoff, we got some other issues that we need to look at and alleviate, which could be irrigation settings. It could be hydrophobic soils. Those are just a couple different things to look at. So with the water restrictions, you want to make sure you're on your correct day and you're in your window that you're allowed. Sometimes this can be very difficult. You may have to run your cycle in the morning and in the evening if it's allowed to get enough water down to where it soaks in. This all is just going to be very dependent on your type of system, your terrain, and what restrictions you have in your area. So you want to make sure your irrigation is working properly and you have good coverage. This really needs to be checked at least quarterly. And a lot of people might check it once a year. I really recommend at least quarterly, because an issue can pop up quickly, whether it's a clogged nozzle, broken heads, or actually a broken pipe. And you don't want to waste water, and you also want to make sure you're watering correctly. So if you see some dry spots out there, definitely first thing to do is check your irrigation. Different types of heads, nozzles, and the terrain will dictate how long that zone is going to run. So there's no, you can't just call somebody and be like, how long do I run the system? You really have to have a site visit to go through your system and see your actual landscape, your property, and your soil conditions to know how long it needs to run for. So the other thing we want to look at this time of the year, our insect pressure is starting to ramp up. If you have St. Augustine, if you're seeing yellowing spots, especially starting at concrete areas like driveways or streets or sidewalks, and it's in the sun, looks like dry areas, but it also could be a sign of chinch bugs. You want to check that to make sure, because these chinch bugs get going about the same time all the dry spots pop up, which is always fun to have this at the same time, but that's just how it works around here. For guys with Bermuda, we're looking at army worms, and they're going to start chowing down between, sometimes I see it as early as June, but then they'll also come later in the summer. But that'll look like a dry lawn as well. Another thing to look at will be our diseases. Take-all root rot will start popping up in the summer, and that's when you're seeing the effects of it. The disease actually is doing its job year-round, and you'll see the effects of it really in the summertime. That's when it really pops up. You may start thinking you have some dry spots, some yellowing, but it's actually a disease. This is why having a professional investigate the issue and treat it is the best option. You don't want to just see a brown spot and just start throwing more water at it. You could either be making the problem worse or just wasting water, because you have a hydrophobic soil, which means your soil's not going to absorb it anyways, and you need to treat that with like our moisture manager product to really help that soil take in the water and allow your grass to use it. So what's real common around here are our soil issues, and is that we just don't have enough of it. It's very common to see 2 or 3 inches of soil that'll be very compact, and then that is on top of a slab of limestone. So this makes it very difficult for your soil profile to hold enough water to get in between your irrigation cycles to provide enough for your grass to survive. So this is why you need irrigation more often, but we're not allowed to with our restrictions. So there are things that you can do about amending your soil with top dressing, or look at things like what we offer is our moisture manager to really help that soil hold more moisture and reduce any phytotoxicity, to where what that really means is it's repelling the water. It's not allowing it to absorb. The moisture manager will help with this and get that moisture in there, let your grass take it in, and use as much of the water as we have versus it running off or to where the grass can't even take it in. So our mowing heights also play a big factor in this, and for St. Augustine and Zoysia, it's pretty easy to raise your mowing height to 2.5 inches or above. This will help keep that soil temperature cooler, keep more moisture in. The problem is going to be more on Bermuda. Bermuda doesn't like to go above 2 or 2.5 inches, but the longer you can keep it, the more moisture you can keep in your soil. Bermuda loves to be around that inch and a half, up to 2 inches. It really thrives in that mowing height. You'll get a nice dense turf canopy, which will help with the moisture. But if you can raise it, see what you can raise it to. If you can get it up to 2.5 inches, that'll really help throughout the summer and kind of keep more moisture in that soil. So other things you want to look at is being on a program. So here at Century, we offer our Fertilization Weed Control Program. Providing a healthy turf with a really strong root system is going to help mitigate these dry spots, help your lawn survive through the summer, and you'll see that it'll have less stress and be able to recover quicker in the fall. Another thing that, like I said earlier, highly recommend is the moisture manager. This really helps. I use this in the golf course industry for 15 years before we even started this business. So it's a great product. Really helps mitigate the amount of water that's needed in your lawn. And then you also want to look at aeration, whether it's a core or a liquid. We provide the liquid here at Century. That'll really help with moisture managing in the soil and provide some open channels for water to work its way in and not run off, and then also provide a good soil medium for your root system to expand and really become healthy, and that way it'll tolerate our summers and reduce the amount of water that you need. So throwing more water at the problem is not always the answer. Got to look at what's going on first, address that, and then we can look at the amount of water, which around here we're restricted to 1 day a week, and so there's some people that can't even water, period. So we need to be thankful for that 1 day a week and use it wisely. If y'all have any questions, just let us know and we'll get you all taken care of. Thanks a lot.